Hello everyone, we're Group 8 and my name is Lucian and these are my group mates, Christine, Hannah, Clarice, and Sarah, and we're going to discuss Maligno and its correlation to our previous module. Ooh.
Yay!
Woo!
The
Woo!
previous module on psychoanalysis. Yay! And
Yay.
Freud.
Okay. Um, so, start na ba?
What was your idea?
I did a little bit of research lang on Tony Perez because I
Mm.
wanted to understand what his I know that like we talked about it in class now we shouldn't use psychoanalysis to really like base the text off of the author's experiences, but honestly at some point um an author's experiences and their life does influence the things that they write. And I thought that we would be able to pull at least some insights of this text from his other works. So he's known to be a he writes about the macabre talaga, and he is known for Filipino modernism and other works that center around horror and like scary elements. So I think with him focusing on the Filipino genre of horror, he really like focused on the psychologic, is that the word? Oh my god. The the psychologic um effects or the psychologic aspect of
Mm-mm.
horror and being alone, and he focused in or he centered in on the insecurity and the fear that is planted into somebody's mind the longer that they are alone by themselves. I think that's what he was going for this one. So ayon.
Ano, actually, you make a good point kasi like yung na-observe ko na point is like really highly related dun sa sinabi mo. Kasi for me personally, I observed something really thought-provoking dun sa dun sa story and how it goes inside with anong tawag dun? With the unconscious mind. Kasi like 'di ba dun sa story, Claire was ano, she was basically just being stalked by this ghost or whatever it was. And dun basically umikot like yung buong story. So I found it weird nung una na parang anong kinalaman nung whole parang narration about her love life and her desire to be alone. Like anong kinalaman nun dun sa main storyline na hino-hunt siya ng maligno or kung ano man yun. So like syempre, I tried to like pick it apart and ang naisip ko is na parang oo nga 'no, what if this had something to do with with the unconscious? And thinking more about it, I feel like it's a very accurate thing kasi let me explain. Kasi ayun nga na parang sinasabi dun sa narration about her thoughts on love na she really she's so convinced that she wants to be alone, na ayaw niya ng significant other. And it even got to this point na parang nagkaroon ng part na may nakaaway pa siya dahil dun. So parang in my thought na parang you're being a little too defensive. Yun, ayun, like parang ayun nga, she's so convinced na she wants to be alone, pero are you though? And ang naisip ko is like, maybe na yung yung pagsa-stalk sa kanya nung maligno na yun, it could actually be a hallucination na kasi nga 'di ba dun sa unconscious mind, on like the conscious level of our thoughts, we think we're so convinced that this is what the way we think or the way we behave or believe in is really the way that it is. Pero deep down, on like the unconscious level, may contradiction pala. And how I can tie that to the stories na parang what if yung maligno na yun is like a manifestation of the fact na although she feels so convinced na she thrives on being alone and na ayaw niya talaga ng boyfriend, maybe there's this actual unconscious contradiction and since nasabi nga with the unconscious na it comes back to constantly haunt us and manipulate our actions and our behavior and any other aspect of our lives. Maybe that kind of manifestation on her case is na parang it manifested as some sort of hallucination through that maligno na parang on the unconscious level gusto mo talaga and nagma-manifest yung unconscious desire niya through this sort of hallucination na inohon siya ng maligno as like some sort of creep that na parang that wants her or something like that. Ayun lang.
Yeah, gets.
Mm-mm. Actually, I find that interesting because I don't know how this is possible, but we have like the same points in some areas, pero also completely opposite. Kasi, personally, yung interpretation ko dun, na, kasi it mentions in the story that people describe her as agresibo, matapang, matigas ang ulo, tas babaeng nakikibaka. That phrase, especially. Parang ginagawa siyang stereotypical feminist and like what feminists are usually subjected to when they assert themselves to other people. Tapos the notion itself na hindi ko kailangan, you don't need a man, ganun. Parang she's ridiculed for that fact. So, to me, yung sinabi niyang walang nakakatakot basta't paghandaan lamang. Um, I would like to say that on the contrary, what she is supposedly scared of is if her plans are to be shattered. So like so basically para sa akin, she doesn't really need one, pero she's still hounded by the fact that whatever she does, she can never escape that idea of a man who will change her mind kasi it haunts her subconscious. Besides that, um what came into my mind when Luke actually talked about his points is what if our insights as a reader itself also has a merit in psychoanalysis itself? As in, what if the way we interpret the story also is dependent on our own psychology and our own personal philosophies and everything? So that's all.
Yeah, I get it. Because, that's really interesting that you mentioned that. Because, sa isip ko, I agreed with a lot of Luke's points on how maybe it was a manifestation of her own parang paranoia and her subconscious. But also when you were explaining your points, so sobrang na-gets ko rin. Um, One other thing that I wanted to mention also was how, there are parts of it that are very contradictory because she has this that she wants to be alone and she's comfortable being alone. But also, as you mentioned, yeah, she doesn't like being uncomfortable or not having a plan for what she wants to do. And both of those combined, they go into play when she encounters this maligno nga, or I think like a spirit or whatever that starts to stalk her. And there's a part that mentions that she says that she'd rather die than be abused or be raped. Like she doesn't want that kind of fate for herself. Um, but at the end of the story, instead of admitting that she is not alone or she is in danger, when the landlord asks her, "Bakit Claire, may nakita ka ba?" She goes, "Wala naman," because she doesn't know how to face that manifestation of what she's feeling. Um, and that kind of contradicts yung everything that was said about her before na matapang siya and mautak talaga siya. Like if you think about it in a rational manner, obviously if you're in danger, you would tell somebody, diba? But in that moment, she's so scared and she doesn't know what to do that she loses that kind of foundation of who she is. And I think that's one of the examples of like a Freudian slip or like a faulty action caused by psychoanalysis also.
I actually wanted to add to that because you mentioned the part where she'd rather die than go through um, all that trauma. I actually thought one of the things I noticed dun sa reading was, yeah, she comes off as this strong, independent woman who would rather do everything herself. She can do it alone, she doesn't need help. But it also brings to light the reality that just because a girl or a woman is independent in her own sense and she's strong and she can do all these things by herself, it doesn't take away the fact that there's still a danger to being a woman living alone in an apartment where there is no security. And like, parang it brought to attention to her na, oh, there's somebody staring at me in my window. And it also makes you, the reader, think na parang, wouldn't you be scared if you started to notice that somebody was standing out? But then you, as you read it, you see her like rationalizing, oh, maybe he's just on break, or maybe it's just like this. Because based off of how I understood her character, she seems to be the type of person na gusto niya palaging alam niya yung what's gonna happen next. She is in control and she can um, change things according to her will and stuff like that. But in this specific situation, she's unsure. She doesn't know what this person, this ghost, is capable of doing, and now she's scared because she can't control it. And you also see her kind of feel like she's going crazy because, like, how come nobody else can see it? But she doesn't want to admit that she's the only one who can see it. And like the tanod part of like, ano yung, I forgot what page it was, when she said on the fourth night na notice niya na ano yun, bumalik siya.
Was that like the timestamp, specific timestamps? Does she asked?
Yeah, oo.
Mm,
Na parang she's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna write it down because I'm not crazy. I
mm.
swear there's somebody there. And then when she gets the confirmation that, no, I didn't see anyone, she's like, oh. Pero yeah, I'll add na lang, yung sa first part when they were kind of introducing her character more and like how people perceive her, and then suddenly this whole incident happens, it kind of makes her question like, okay, well, all this time kala mo kaya mo mag-isa. Kaya mo ba talaga? Yung parang, that's why she's like trying to figure out like, oh, what am I gonna do about it? Like, should I do this? Should I ignore him, or is he gonna do anything more? Is he just gonna stand there? And then it's like, okay, well, akala ko ba kaya mo mag-isa? Are you sure about that? Now that you're
Okay.
posed with like this uncertainty.
Mm-mm. Actually, when you said that, that kind of made me think if there's a significant aspect in her life, because she's so afraid of vulnerability to the
Yeah.
point that it feels like she's fighting something. Like maybe in her past there was something that happened to her that prevents her from being vulnerable. Like
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah,
it's a
yeah,
specific kind of fear.
yeah. It's
That
yeah, it's
comes
giving
after
trauma
trauma.
response.
It's a giving trauma
Yeah.
response, yeah.
Which is why she also is opposed to dating, right? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we're connecting
Right?
the dots.
Oh,
Yeah.
Opposed to
Yeah.
dating, scared of this
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
uncertain figure,
Correct.
male
Correct.
sounds
figure that's
familiar.
staring at her
Yeah.
through her
And
window.
it's very, I think in that sense na it could be a possible trauma. I think it could very much be something that she's repressed from
Mm-mm.
her like from her life before, because correct me if I'm wrong, but how I interpreted it is that she only sees this figure through, I think, one of her windows, and it's the window that
Yes,
is in her bedroom.
bedroom.
Parang
Yeah, and it's
it
only a
only happens,
specific
yeah.
time of the
It's
night.
only when she's about to sleep, like when she's
Oh,
getting ready for bed. So I
Yeah.
think it's like, you know how they say, but we talked about this in class also, how dreams can be a window into your unconscious.
mm-mm.
So I think it only comes out when she's about to sleep or she's getting ready for bed, because it's when her defenses kind of drop and she's getting ready for bed, she's getting ready to sleep. So she's not as keen on her, I guess, reality anymore, and she's
Yeah.
starting to like pull away from that consciousness, and it's getting back into what she does not remember or she has repressed before.
Actually,
Yeah.
I have had like some prior research about that. Nah, it's actually somewhat lang, somewhat normal. Okay, don't quote me on this because I'm not like a psych major or anything. I just research because I kind of have experiences of my own. But it's somewhat normal for you to have some kind of hallucination before you go to sleep daw. So, that kind of, bakit yun yung hallucination na lumalabas sa utak niya in that way na connects to our theory that she might have suffered some kind of past trauma about it. That's all.
I know, like for me naman, parang connected din sa sinasabi niyo na parang like parang may nightmare siya sa dreams niya, something like that. In a way, from how I interpreted the Maligno, parang I feel like her insecurities are like talking to her, kumbaga. Like, she thinks maybe that insecurity of hers is like, sinasabihin siya na siya agresibo, like that. And that's why na even though she would like to be in a relationship or something like that, parang she unconsciously nga na parang repressing herself because of that insecurities, maybe. And I think it could be like connected to her like neurosis kind of thing wherein dahil sa everyday insecurities niya from like the comments of other people, kumbaga nag-form siya into some kind of like traumatic event. Yeah, parang ganun. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does. It
Yeah.
does. Like the comments themselves are a traumatic event.
Yeah. Also connected to yung basically yung trauma niya about her denying at the end that she's going, I guess when she's starting to get paranoid and when she's going crazy. I think in the overall how to tie it back to yun nga, she's like a stereotypical feminist and she doesn't need a man. She'd rather be crazy. Like we already made the comparison na she'd rather die than have so many trauma happen to her. But also she'd rather be crazy than admit that she needs somebody. I think that is the other side of that coin. And it now manifests in her paranoia that somebody is watching her. But then at the end, yun nga, parang she'd rather just mas kaya niyang pagdaanan yun than put her back in that situation of parang needing someone to be with her or being dependent on somebody. So yeah.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
for
listening.
listening.